So, welcome to Northern Powerhouses, our business success story series of interviews, where we discuss with local business leaders their backgrounds, their successes and challenges, and what's really driving them forwards. And this morning, I'm delighted to have with us Wayne Dewey, who's the managing director at the Flower Connection. So, firstly, Wayne, thank you for spending a bit of time with us. And if you'd like to introduce yourself, the Flower Connection, what you do, and how you help people, that would be wonderful.
Yeah, thank you, Chris, and thanks for inviting me on. The Flower Connection is a import and wholesale fresh flower business. We specialise in business to business. We're just business to business. We supply a range of florists, event business, wedding businesses, anyone who has a need for flowers. We also have a very large plant department, so indoor, outdoor plants, supplying landscapers, garden centres, florists, again, business to business. So we try and really operate in a place where we connect our customers to the world's finest growers. That's really our mission statement, that we offer a world-class selection of flowers, plants, and sun, all the accessories that businesses would use, and we try and deliver that in a way that our customers require, and that's evolved a lot over the last, particularly since COVID and since Brexit. So yeah, we are a wholesaler. We carry a large amount of fresh stock, and that has some unique challenges, and we continue to evolve and try and meet the market needs.
Brilliant. And so going back to the start, is this what, when you were growing up, is this what you thought you might be doing when you grew up, or did you have other plans at that time?
No, flowers were never in fact, products.
I'm really sorry. The signal drops at my end for some reason. I'm not quite sure why. So I'm really sorry. I'm going to ask that question again, if I may.
Yeah,
I do apologise. It rarely happens. I've got double internet setup and everything here, and just typical, but all good. So sorry, but let me just ask you that question again, and we'll go from the when you were growing up, if that's okay. You okay with that? So when you were growing up, did you foresee yourself doing this, or did you have another future planned at that point?
Well, actually, growing up, my dad was a policeman, so I thought I was going to grow up and be a policeman, and that was my goal. But being a policeman's son and being one of seven, we had very little money. So at the age of 10, I think I was cutting lawns and washing cars, and at age 12, I went down to the local market in Doncaster on a very cold February Saturday morning and walked around asking for a job, and finally got a job loading and unloading jeans into a van, which I did for a year or two, earning £2 every Saturday.
Wow.
And then I got a full-time Saturday job. And then by the time I was 15 and sort of looking at what I was going to do, I'd decided I wanted to be a market trader. So my dad was good. He taught me to save 50% of everything I earned. So by the time I was sort of 15, I'd saved about £1,000 at the time, and I decided to go and buy £300 worth of socks. Couldn't drive at the time.
Wow.
Used to get on the train with one of my school pals, go to Leeds, go to the wholesalers, buy socks and carry them back in black bin liners. And I did that. I managed to, when I left school, pass my test and full-time on the market selling socks. And that then kind of progressed into seeing an opportunity with flowers and opening a flower business in Rotherham, which was not too far away. I did that for several years and then decided to make a complete change and bought a franchise with Autoglim which is a premium car care product, supplying all car dealers and motorist discount shops and all that kind of a thing. And I've done that did that for about 20 years. And then ended up getting pulled back into flowers by a friend of mine who was still a wholesaler and wanted to know if I wanted to buy a business and go into business with him. And this was 2016. And I said, yeah, let's do that. Completely ignorant of what that was going to mean. I thought the guy in the background doing a little bit of business support, but I realized very quickly that wasn't going to be the case. And so that's kind of where we are. We bought two businesses, merged them together, created the Flower Connection, and have evolved from there.
Wonderful. What a background of entrepreneurialism right from an early age.
Tell people I've made the natural progression from socks to car polish to flowers.
Obviously, yeah, absolutely. What else? It's totally connected. Wonderful, wonderful. And I mean, I would imagine that given flowers are very much a very short shelf life, there must be plenty of challenges. What are the sort of key challenges that you've had growing the Flower Connection?
Well, one thing I would say is moving into this business has made me realize that the automotive business was a walk in the park. Challenging. And then I realized, yeah, I mean, what's interesting is I've been out of the flower business since 2003. And the difference coming back in 2016, I didn't realize how the market had changed. And we were very much a cash and carry wholesale model. Yes. I think there was one van and all the customers would come down into the market from 5 a.m., buy their flowers, take them away to their shops and do their thing. And it was really just kind of a market pitch. They'd come on. There was probably 3 or 4 wholesalers in a line, and customers would walk up and down, having a look to see what there was and pricing, and then decided what to buy. Today, we don't see 90% of our customers anymore.
Right.
We're pretty much an online business with a web shop, and now customers sit at home, what they've received, and then place an order online for what they want to appear in their shops magically in the morning before they arrive at work. So it's completely transitioned. We've got probably 16 vans currently.
Wow.
We deliver from our premises in Leeds. We deliver to the Wirral. We deliver down as far as Stamford, just above Peterborough. We're down into Lincolnshire, Boston, Spalding, Skegness, up the east. And so, and up as far as Richmond, Scotch Corner to the north. So previously, we'd have just been a cash and carry wholesaler serving customers within a 30-minute radius.
Yes.
That would come. So yeah, massive changes to the business in those years.
So I mean, I guess you get almost half or a partial logistics company with that many deliveries to arrange on time every morning. Must be that whole. I would imagine that's a whole new set of disciplines to learn.
It is, and the other side of that is to do that, we've had to introduce a night shift. Yep. So, we're pretty much now it used to be a business that opened at 4 a.m. and closed at 11 a.m.
Right.
We're now 24/7.
Wow.
So we close at about 1 o'clock on a Saturday, and the night pick team come in at 5 p.m. on a Sunday, and we don't close then till 1 p.m. the following Saturday. So it's a continual churn. Wow. We still have the cash and carry, so we've still got the old school customers that that's the way they've done it. They say they buy with their eyes. They won't refuse to go online, but as they come to retirement and the next generation take over, they then move to online.
Yep.
Because most people now are trying to balance work and lifestyle.
Yes.
Particularly since we've seen that more and more since COVID, people do not want to do the get up at 5 a.m. and work till 6 p.m. at night. They want to fit in other things. So, you know, it's ideal for our customers in a sense. It also gives them access to a lot more competitors, though. So it makes a market, because they can now they can open 5 different web shops and compare the products, look at pricing, decide which quality they want and different things, which I guess was only similar to walking down all the different cash and carry wholesalers at the time.
Yeah.
They've now all disappeared. You know, we're the only ones here in Leeds.
Yeah.
We've got a competitor over in Lancashire. There's a small a competitor in Huddersfield, but then it's all in Holland. And the Dutch are coming direct now. And so we're competing directly with them as well. So the market's changed massively.
Yeah, I can imagine so many things. You mentioned also obviously Brexit over this period of time. Given I know you're importing a lot of things from Holland, etc. So across everything, all that the career that you've had, both this business and the previous ones, what are your biggest, most important learnings about running and growing a business, Wayne?
Yeah, I think ultimately a principle is something that applies to any business. And so I think the principles are the same.
Yeah.
It's different applications. Ultimately, I always say to my guys here, another thing that's changed, that we've gone from when we started the business having 18 people between 2 sites to having 55 people. So as a business grows, that brings new challenges, because to kind of be able to touch everybody and be able to speak to everybody directly. And now you've got to have a different framework for doing that.
Yes.
But ultimately, the thing I try and always remember is the only purpose of a business is to serve a customer. If you don't have a customer, you don't exist. At the same time, you've got to make a profit.
Yep.
And the two of those are critical. You can't do one and not the other. Otherwise, you won't be here. Yeah. So to understand, solve a customer problem, be innovative, look at next steps. What can we do? Customer success has been a big focus for me over the last few years, recognizing that we succeed if a customer succeeds.
Yeah.
So helping them to succeed in their business means we succeed in our business. So a customer-centric focus has been critical to what we do. And just then looking operationally, particularly in our business, you mentioned Brexit, you mentioned some of the other challenges. We've got a fresh product that we've got to get to a customer. And people always wonder why a flower's expensive. They grow in the garden. And, you know, the answer to that is when you receive that bouquet from the florist, probably the day before it was sitting in, those flowers were sitting in our premises. Yeah. They were bought at the shop, picked overnight, loaded in a vehicle, delivered to that shop, and then the florist does her work. She's the artist. She turns it into whatever. So if they were in our premises on Thursday evening and bought, we bought that on the auction in Holland on Wednesday morning.
Wow.
The day before that, it was in the ground in South Africa. So it's gone from South Africa to Holland. It's been loaded on a truck. It's come over on the ferry, been delivered to our premises. We've put it into our refrigerated warehouse. We then located it. Our night pickers have picked it, and so the process, that stem of flowers, what we really hope is the driver doesn't drop it when he's bringing them through the door.
Yes. Oh my goodness.
Because our last point of contact, you know. So that stem goes on a long journey. On a good night, we send out about 60,000 stems. So it's a fair operation. We have 10 night pickers. So we have a night picking team, we have a checking team, we have a packing team that pack it all. And then we have the driving team that come in at 2 a.m. because the goal is to get it out to the shops before they start work. So it's become quite a complex operation from just being a customer walking onto the pitch saying, I'll have that, and that, and taking it away.
Wow. So let me get this right. I love numbers. So 60,000 stems. So a day, or I appreciate not every day, but let's say 60,000 steps a day.
We probably do 250,000 a week. So
250,000 a week, that's easier. So that's,
yeah.
am I right thinking that, is that 1.25 million or 12 million stems in a year? 1.25 million? Must be.
I don't know.
No, it's okay. I mean, I just a
No,
scale.
it's a million stems a month, isn't it? It will be more than that. It'll be more because obviously we're on our Mother's Day week, for instance,
Yes.
is 60,000 stem night. On that night, it was 240,000 stems, which pretty much
Well,
totals. So
well,
probably about 15 million stems a year, I would say.
15 million stems a year. That is incredible when you think about that number. And I mean, really, just getting the complexity. So we've got 15 million stems with four. So South Africa to Holland to you to the florist to the client.
Yeah.
So there's 50 million stems with 5 steps in. Goodness, that's a complex. That's some complexity there, and I guess that must be the challenge of passing on any variations in price, in costs, etc. There's a message to be had all the way down that line, I guess.
And you've got to add into that it's a fresh product.
Yes.
So it's time sensitive. So, such as Brexit causes problems because the UK government have now put in additional checks, which means our truck can get held up for a day. And that just impacts our business massively, and we've got no control of it. So those kind of challenges are very real for us.
Yeah, I can imagine. I really can, I know working with lots of different businesses and types of business, the impact of different things like Brexit, like the war in Ukraine, these sorts of things have impacts on different businesses for different reasons. But I can see, with that many stages in the process and all the changes that you've witnessed must be quite challenging. So, you're aware we're a business coaching organisation. I'm keen to know who the best coaches that you've worked with, whether that's business, sport, life in general. Who've had the biggest influences on you?
That's a good question. I think one of the challenges with being a small business is you tend to not have too much in the way of external help.
Yes.
It to be quite an internal thing. I've always done a lot of reading, so I admire people like Stephen Covey,
Great.
and other various business leaders. So I've learned principles like that. Left school young, went on the markets, but then when I was in 2012, I had the mad idea that I should go to university and do an MBA.
Wow. Wow.
It was a mad idea. And after the first 6 months, I wanted to quit. And my wife said, "No, you paid for it. You're doing it." And I'm glad she did, because by the end of it, I really enjoyed it. And I missed out on a first by 1 point.
Oh, wow. Well done.
And that literally was because I'd not written an essay since I was 16 years old. And I was now 43 or 44, whatever I was. And so it was a real learning curve. But that was interesting for me because it gave me a framework and a vocabulary.
Yeah.
Things that had been doing. It helped me to probably think a bit more critically and just kind of see the bigger picture of different things. So that was a useful learning for me. But I think more than anything, it's just working with people.
Yeah.
Talking to customers, talking to other businesses that I interact with, understanding their challenges and just continually looking for improvement. Yeah.
It's a great learning opportunity, isn't it? I mean, we are customers of many other businesses, and understanding what works, what doesn't work, how marketing works to us doesn't mean it directly relates to our own business, but as you said, the principles typically do. And just learning, there's so much knowledge out there. It's really just a question of, if we keep our eyes and ears open, we can learn so much just by living life, I think.
Yeah. I think a lot of it, though, comes down to just the basics.
Yeah.
I think we can get really caught up in things that don't matter. about focusing on the things that make the biggest difference, and just communication with customers, just the basic things that can be overlooked, and people appreciate, make a difference. And in terms of being able to differentiate, people expect a good quality product now. They expect the price to be right. They expect all those things as a minimum expectation. So differentiation has to be more than that, and so customer experience becomes the focus, and that's where we're moving. And the flower business is the Wild West, really. It's got very little structure to it, very little. Right. It's been a very organic, small businesses kind of a thing without a lot of journalism. But that's changing just because businesses have got to survive in a very different world now.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. And do you, I love collecting quotes and sayings. Are there any favorite quotes or sayings that you find yourself using a lot?
Yeah, there's a few, but I think one that stands out for me is Aristotle. And he said, you cannot control the wind, but you can adjust your sail. And that for me has been quite a profound statement. So many things happen that you can't control, but there are always controllables and things you can focus on. And so instead of kind of focusing on the wind, you just focus on adjusting your sail. And I think being proactive is key.
Bang on. And I think there's I think it was Stephen Covey talked about the idea of the circle of influence and the circle of concern, circle of control, and let's focus on the circle of control and not anything outside of that. The more we're concerned about things we can't control, the more we're just going to be stressed out. It's like, let's just work on the stuff we can. And I know, in sport, in rugby, there's a great phrase, control the controllables. It's that let's work on the stuff we can do. We can't just what other people do. Wonderful. I have not heard that Aristotle quote, so thank you so much for that. That's going on my list. And speaking of learning, what have you learned about yourself, Wayne, throughout this wonderful, colourful journey that you've had to date?
Well, another quote just comes to mind, and and I only heard this on Sunday, actually.
Brilliant.
and someone said, you can't wait for the storms of life to pass. You have to learn to dance in the rain.
Yeah, love it.
And the reality is there will always be problems and challenges. 2022 for me was I had a serious cancer. A spinal problem and had to have spinal surgery. It could have left me paralyzed. And I had a couple of other health complications. And you have a year like that, and people say to you, how do you cope? Well, during that, my sister, who's a year older than me, had a brain tumor and died.
Oh, goodness.
And so you kind of think, well, you've just got to make the most of life. And you can't wait for everything to be perfect before you choose to be happy. You've got to find a way to be happy and dance in the rain. So I really like that quote. In business this week, I've had 3 or 4 challenges that I didn't anticipate, that I didn't particularly like, but you've got to find a way to just recognize that and acknowledge that and move on anyway. And I think that's one of the learnings for me as a person, that you've got to keep growing. You can never stop. I remember the first day on my MBA. I remember the lecturer saying, there are 3 zones. He said, it was a she actually. She said, there's a comfort zone, there's a stretch zone, and there's a panic zone. Said, you don't want to live life in the comfort zone because you won't go anywhere. You don't want to live life in the panic zone because that's just not a nice place to be.
It's stressful,
Stretch zone. You want to be continually growing and progressing. I think for me, that's the key. My feet go to sleep pretty easily, so I like my role in the business because I can get involved in so much. I'm not somebody who wants an office and kind of hide behind a spreadsheet or a computer. I can do that for a little while, but then I go a bit stir crazy. For me, it's about people. It's about getting out there, understanding what people need and want, and trying to find how can we better meet that need than anybody else.
Yes.
And so evolving, progressing, continually growing thing. And so, the nice thing for me is that I don't come to work feeling like, oh, I've got to go to work. For me, this is my hobby. It's what I enjoy doing.
Brilliant.
And so I never see a time where I want to stop doing this.
Yeah.
Might change how much time I spend doing it, but for me, it's something that keeps me alive and keeps me happy.
Wonderful. That's great. Really great to hear. And so, looking forward to the future, what does the future look like for you guys, and what challenges do you think you might face, if any?
There's always challenges, and we talked the other day, Chris, and the challenge in our business is profitability.
Yeah.
I think that's not unique to our business. Speaking to a number of firms, overheads have risen massively, and we're all looking for ways to run businesses that meet the needs of our customers but are at the same time profitable.
Yeah.
And so an ongoing challenge. I would like us to continue to grow. This year for me is a year of consolidation.
Yeah.
It's a kind of just reshaping the business. We've merged 2 branches. We've had the opportunity to buy one of our competitors, and so that's been good for us, but it also brings challenges.
Yeah.
This for us is a bit of a consolidation year, and then next year we'd just like to keep growing. As long as we can do that, and I think we'll feel like we're progressing.
Brilliant. And looking back over your the career so far, if anyone was to ask, was thinking of going into business right now, what would you say to them?
Yeah, I mean, I'm 55, so it seems like a long time ago that I went and bought that £300 worth of socks.
Wonderful.
But I think anybody who's got the passion to solve a problem and to find a way to deliver some value to a customer, I think go for it. I think I've never been employed, never been for a job interview. That's unique to me. Some people would never want to do what I do. They want the security of a job and a steady progression. But if you're the person who likes excitement, the adventure, the challenge, and is passionate about doing that, there's nothing like working for yourself.
Wonderful. What a great well said. And interesting enough, I think you make number 10 now. I think I only know through all my time doing this in business, I've only met 10 people, I think, who have never been employed. Very, very, very few people have never been employed, but I think I know about 10 now. I keep counting them up. I'll try and remember who they all are at some point. So you're number 10 on the list. So congratulations. That's in a long time. And if you started again, whether it's this business or just looking back over your career, is there anything significant that you do differently, Wayne?
What would I do differently? Do you know what? I don't think I would. I think I look back at my mistakes, and I think they were an important learning curve for me.
Yeah.
I look back at where I've come from, and my aspirations as a child have been exceeded. And ultimately, what's been a real privilege is being able to achieve a work-life balance while my kids were growing up.
Wonderful.
Family important to me. I like the saying, nobody will get to the end of their life and say, I wish I'd spent more time in the office.
Yeah.
The reality is, if we're going to have any regrets, that they're not going to be them. And so finding a way to get that work-life balance so that the things that matter most, Stephen Covey, the things that matter most should never be at the mercy of the things that matter least. I think that's an important learning for me. And I hope I've achieved that.
Brilliant. Certainly sounds like it. So congratulations for that. That's absolutely wonderful. And finally, what would you say to an 18-year-old you if you could go back in time and do that?
I think I would say to myself, look at the bigger picture, because I think you can be too busy working to actually focus on the direction you're going in. And I probably could have made progress more quickly if I'd sat back more. You know that saying we talk about working on the business and not working in the business?
Yep.
I think that the challenge for a small business owner is you wear so many hats and you're doing so much that you don't take that step back just to check that you're going in the right direction.
So important. It's so important that we do, because we can work, we can work really, really, really hard, but if we're going in the wrong direction, that's not going to get us there. And I do meet too many business people in that mode. And go back to, your point earlier, working hard in our business is actually in general a bit of a comfort zone thing, in my opinion. It makes us feel like we're delivering, we're doing stuff, but but as I say, working hard in the wrong directions is not working at all.
I've actually times that people work too hard to make money.
Yeah,
they're too busy working to actually look at making money, and that is a challenge.
Yeah, it absolutely. There is normally, having the time to sit back. I often say to people that business owners and leaders should have more than enough time on their hands to literally sit back and put the feet on the table and think. And the sort of the actual
challenge to that is that people like myself and a lot of business owners that have worked their way to that have such a they feel guilty. What other people do the work while they do the thinking, and that's a challenge for me. I guess that's another challenge I've put on the table. I find it really difficult not to be the one doing the most work.
Yeah, and it's very common. The challenge to it, the way I often talk to people about it is it's a bit like on a ship. We use the Aristotle quote. We're on a ship. Being willing to help the guys pull the anchor up or pull the sails up at the right point is fine, but ultimately they actually want us steering the ship, because if we're busy pulling the sails up, nobody is steering the ship, and that's our job. And our job is steering and navigating and seeing what the bigger picture is, and that's as hard a work as other things. It may not be as manual, but it is probably the hardest job of all. That's why we do it. But it's a difficult thing, and if we don't do it, then obviously there's a challenge to everybody. So, but it's hard, isn't it? When success is based on hard work, and all just 99% of success is based on hard work, it's difficult to move from that sort of just 24/7 working hard to that step back, think, look, plan. Is there a quicker, easier way of achieving? So it's a very common thing, but I've certainly found people I've worked with and people that I've learned from, that the quicker we move to that, the quicker things improve, and we start to get to a point, improve for everybody.
And I can see that. I guess the extreme example is if we have a delivery guy who doesn't turn in. I used to be the guy jumping in the van and going out and taking out the deliveries, which made me an expensive delivery driver. But to use your metaphor, nobody was steering the ship because he was out delivering flowers.
Absolutely. And if delivering that, I don't know, that using the example isn't the right one, but delivering that meant another 5 deliveries didn't go out right the next day or whatever because we weren't there. That's the challenge. I remember ringing the business owner up and they said, "Oh no, he's cleaning the toilets," and I just went, "Oh my goodness, what's going on?" Because it's just like, I totally get if the toilets are dirty, somebody needs to clean them, but that isn't our job, unless we're an expert, I guess. Wait, it's been absolutely fascinating. Learning your story and what you've learned and the principles by which you work. So thank you so much for taking the time this morning. And for anyone that would like to get in touch with you or the Flower Connection, what would be the best way to do that?
Yeah, we're online, so www.theflowerconnection.co.uk, or my email address, which is wayne@theflowerconnection.co.uk.
Brilliant, brilliant. Well, look, it'd be great to swing by again another 6, 12 months and just see what that next step and stage has been in the development. But for now, thank you so much for your time today.
Yeah, thanks, Chris.